Science as method and results. For the most part of the science, reputation stems from the objectivity brought upon by an arbitrary, rigid methodology whose very character absolves it from accusation of prejudice. Such infamy effectively raised science in a pedestal untouchable with other institutions. It holds claims to reason and empiricism, garnering supporters who want to defend it eight ways. The word science is derived from the Latin word scientia, which means knowledge. Science aims for measurable results through testing and analysis, a process known as the scientific method. Science based on fact, not opinion, or preconceived. The process of science is designed to challenge ideas through research. Example of the scientific method is microscope.
It means it is a method for asking a question about something you observe or make an observation that describes a problem. In another way, you need to get more research to explain the gathered data for you to know the exact meaning of it. You need to observe and determine if which part on a text was lack of explanation. There are 6 steps. Varys presents a general idea of how to do science. First is observe and determine if there are unexplained occurrences unfolding. In this call, the scientific method is introduced in the earlier part of discussion. A scientific method is a method or procedure that has characterized natural science, consisting in systematic observation, measurement and experiments, and the formulation, testing, and modification of hypotheses.
Problems and factors in scientific method as results. One of the most significant problems with a scientific method is the lack of importance placed on observations that lie outside of the main hypothesis. The factors involved in scientific method is variable, the factor that the scientist measures or observes to see how it responds to the independent variable. Controlled variable, factors that a scientist keeps constant in the experiment. Data, the results of the experiment. Conclusion, it is a statement based on measurements and observations made in the experiment.
Step number 3. Through past knowledge of similar instance, formulate hypotheses that could explain the said phenomenon. Ideally, the goal is to reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative hypothesis for the study, to count as significant. Can also be separated into additional steps such as to generate prediction or to infer from past experiments. And now let's go to step 4. Conduct experiments by setting up dependent and independent variables and trying to see how independent ones affect dependent ones.
Number 5. Gather and analyze results throughout and upon culmination of the experiment. Examine if the data gathered are significant enough to conclude results. My explanation. Evidence is needed to test the prediction. There are several strategies for collecting evidence or data. Scientists can gather their data by observing the natural world, performing an experiment in laboratory, or by running a model. Scientists decide what strategy to use, often combining strategies. Then they plan a procedure and gather their data. They make sure the procedure can be repeated so that other scientists can evaluate their findings. Because after gathering all data, you have to go with the data analysis. You have a TP interpret the data you have collected, organized and displayed in the form of table or graph. The process involves looking for patterns, similarities, differences, trends, and other relationships, and thinking about what this pattern might mean. The researcher scientist then summarizes the findings to the hypothesis.
Formulating conclusion and providing recommendations. The last yet important of scientific methods is how to formulate your inclusion and preferably to provide recommendations, because a well-written conclusion provides you with important opportunities to demonstrate to the reader your understanding of the research problem. In formulating your conclusion, you have to take note of the following. Number 1. Presenting the last word in the issues you raise in your paper, just as the introductions give a first impression to your reader. The conclusion offers a chance to leave a lasting impression. Bali, yung paglalahad ng pinakahuling salita o huling salita ng mga isyong inilabas mo sa papel at kung paano ang panimula nagbibigay ng unang impresyon sa nagbabasa. Ang conclusion ay nag-offers o chance to leave ng pangmatagalang impression. Number 2. Summarizing your thoughts and conveying the larger significance of the study. The conclusion is an opportunity to succinctly re-emphasize the so what question by placing the study within the context of how your research advances past research about the topic. Number 3. Identifying how a gap in the literature has been addressed. The conclusion can be where you describe how a previously identified gap in the literature has been filled by your research. 4. Demonstrating the importance of your ideas. Don't be shy. The conclusion offers you the opportunity to elaborate on the impact of significance of your findings. This is particularly important if your study approach examining the research problem from unusual or innovative perspective. Number 5. Introducing possible new or expanded ways of thinking about the research problem. This does not refer to introducing new information, which should be avoided, but to offer new insight and creative approaches for framing or contextualizing the research problem based on the result of your study. Bali, pagpapakilala ng mga posibleng bago o pinalawak na paraan pag-isip tungkol sa sariling pananaliksik. Hindi ito tumutukoy sa pagpapakilala ng bagong impormasyon na dapat iwasan. Pero, upang maalok ang bagong pananaw at malikhaing pamaraan para sa pag-frame o pagsasakonteksto ng problema sa pananaliksik batay sa mga resulta ng ating or ng iyong pag-aaral.
Good morning everyone, my name is Adarsh C. Anbog and this is my topic about Honduras history and climate. Honduras was first sighted by Europeans when Christopher Columbus arrived at the Bee Lands very close to the islands of Guanaja on July 30, 1502 on his fourth voyage. On 14 August 1502, Columbus was landed on the mainland modern Trujillo. Columbus named country Honduras for the deep waters of its coast. The climate in Honduras is hot, the tropical in the coast lowlands with annual temperature averaging 26 degrees to 29 degrees Celsius. It becomes more temperate the highlands where the annual temperature averages 16 degrees to 24 degrees Celsius.
Verification theory. What is verification theory? Verification theory is the use of empirical data, observation, test or by use of experiment to confirm if it is truth or a rational justification of hypothesis. Verification means is to determine the truth value. For example, all bag is red, but in observation it's falsified. Why? Because later on, nakakita tayo ng black na colored bag. So we confirm the truth that all bag is not red. So we must know that this theory is very helpful, especially in validate facts. Verification theory is the earliest criterion that distinguish philosophy and science. The idea proposes that a discipline is a science if it can be confirmed or interpreted in the event of an alternative hypothesis being accepted. This theory takes into account only those results which are measurable and experiments which are repeatable. For example, in research, we conduct an analytical way to test our data or hypothesis over so many processes and different methods in order for us to get the result, a verified one. So, verification theory is very helpful, especially in validated facts. So, that's verification theory.
Ang topic ko man is anako part sa Bina Circle. So, this was espoused by a movement in the early 20th century called the Bina Circle. So, what is Bina Circle? Bina Circle is a group of scholars who believe that only those which can be observed should be regarded as meaningful. Reject those which cannot be directly accessed as meaningless. So, ang Bina Circle Bali is isa sila ka grupo ng mga philosophers o scholars sa unang bahagi ng ika-20th century na naghangad o ang ila purpose bali is gusto nila ay reconceptualize ang empirism sa pamaagi ng ila interpretasyon ng mga kamakailang pag-advancement sa una sa physical at formal na agham. So, amo bali daw ng meaning ng Bina Circle.
Aside from above critique, this theory completely fails to weed out bogus arguments that explain things coincidentally. A classic example is astrology, whose followers are able to employ the verification method in ascertaining its reliability. This idea is that since one already has some sort of expectations, American philosopher Thomas Kuhn warned us against bridging the gap between evidence and theory by attempting to interpret the former according to our own biases, that is, whether or not we subscribe to the theory. So aside from this part of this theory, the meaning of it is arguments explain that is truth and logic. It is need to be realistic and hold good accredit. A verification method is expected as real because an American philosopher, he explained that this theory attempt to form a knowledge of real. This method introduced experiment to be known as truth and logical. This theory attached a statement confirming the truth of this statement. It emphasized the advocacy properly and truth. And this theory have an advantageous truth and satisfied.
Example of astrology, the situation of Leah and Ian. That is a verification theory because it means for you or us to know our observation that you say Leah she noticed what Ian is doing to her. Kaya dahil doon ay nag-assume siya na may gusto sa kanya si Ian. Pero nang i-verify niya ang kanyang ebidensya at tinanong niya ng idiretso si Ian, nalaman niyang ganun din pala si Ian sa mga taong nasa paligid sa kanya. At iyon ay verification theory. Kasi kailangan mong ma-verify bago ka makapag-assume. So because of that, the result was next time Leah, before she assumed, she needs to know the things first or she needs to know first what is something or the evidence that show her. Because there are evidence in front of you or different beliefs na sa harapan mo pero may ibig sabihin. That's not what you basically say, but there is a deeper explanation. Like Ian kindness to him, akala niya may gusto sa kanya si Ian, pero nung yung na-verify niya, mabait si Ian sa lahat, and that is verification theory.